welcome to this press conference regarding the transition of government assistance grants from the House of Assembly to the Social Development Department. I'm your moderator for today's proceedings, Natasha Letsom-Humphrey, Public Health Communications Specialist in the Ministry of Health and Social Development. The government's COI implementation framework states that assistance grants disbursed by members of the House of Assembly and government ministries will be transferred to the Social Development Department by the end of June. A temporary transition grant program is being launched for existing recipients of monthly grants while the Social Development Department determines whether each beneficiary is eligible for public assistance. Today, we are here to mark the beginning of the transition of the government assistance grants as government seeks to streamline all grants under the Social Development Department. Today, to set the tone, we will be hearing from our Minister for Health and Social Development, Honorable Marlon Penn, and Chief Social Development Officer, Mrs. Annie Malone Fret. I now will invite the Minister to make his statement.
Thank you, Ms. Letsom-Humphrey. Thank you for the media, PS, members of the public who are listening live, those on ZBY Radio. A pleasant good morning. Today I would like to update you on the progress we are making to streamline the disbursement of social assistance grants to persons in need. As you may know, the Ministry of Health and Social Development has primary responsibility for social protection policies and programs, which aim to provide at least a basic level of economic security for residents. This includes the administration of social assistance benefits to qualifying persons who are not able to meet their basic needs. The Public Assistance Program is our main vehicle for delivering means-tested benefits to low-income households. In times of emergencies or crisis, the Social Development Department may also disperse special short-term grants based on an objective eligibility criterion. The recently published Commission Inquiry Report found these arrangements to be consistent with good practice for managing and accounting for public funds. However, the Commission also concluded that assistance grants that were being dispersed by other ministries of government and the House of Assembly were not being properly administered, which left the programs open to abusive and fraudulent practices. The Government of National Unity of the Virgin Islands in the COI implementation framework clearly stated our commitment to transitioning all government assistance grants to the Social Development Department by the end of June 2022. Today, I am pleased to announce that Cabinet has decided on the following transitional arrangements. 1. For monthly grant recipients referred from the House of Assembly, a 3-month transition grant will be implemented by the Social Development Department from July to September 2022. To be clear, this grant would only be paid to individuals who had previously been approved for monthly and bi-monthly assistance grants. 2. During the 3-month transition period, each grant recipient will be assessed to determine if they are eligible for enrollment into the public assistance program. For persons who do not qualify for public assistance, benefit payments will stop at the end of September. However, if any instance of fraud or deception is discovered during the assessment process, grant payments will cease immediately and steps taken to recover any fraudulent payments. Alongside the transitional arrangements, the Public Assistance Committee continues to consider applications for various types of short, medium, and long-term grants, and make referrals to employment and livelihood support services. Public Assistance Act of 2023 stipulates that in addition to establishing financial need, the committee must verify that the applicant falls into at least one of the following categories. The beneficiary must be a belonger or holder of a certificate of residence, or married to a belonger and living together with that person in the Virgin Islands, or responsible for the care of a dependent person who is a belonger or a resident. priority is given to vulnerable children, persons over 65, unemployed persons, and persons with disabilities. However, emergency assistance can be provided to other poor and vulnerable households to meet basic needs in special circumstances. I'm very happy to be joined by Ms. Annie Malone-Frett, the Chief Social Development Officer, who in a short while will further explain how transition program will be rolled out. She will also provide information on support services available to needy households throughout the Social Development Department. We are mindful that all these changes are happening during the hurricane season and at a time when global events are placing increasing pressures on household budgets. The Government of National Unity is sensitive to these pressures and will continue to build capacity to rapidly deliver financial assistance to low-income and worst-affected households during these emergency times. To achieve this, Cabinet has directed the Ministry of Health and Social Development to urgently develop a contingency plan to cope with any surge in demand with appropriate emergency funding mechanisms. The Government of National Unity is also committed to implementing the COI recommendations related to assistance grants and will complete a comprehensive review of our social assistance and benefit systems by the end of November 2022. This will provide a framework for revamping individual and household benefits, as well as community development grants to nonprofit and civic organizations, in line with best practices approaches for reducing poverty and vulnerability. I will keep you informed on these and other initiatives as we progress, and I welcome feedback and suggestions. Finally, I want to thank you for your trust and confidence placed in me, my colleagues in government, as well as my ministry team, as we join hands to identify and meet the needs in our community. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. I would now like us to turn our attention to our Chief Social Development Officer, Mrs. Annie Malone-Frett.
Thank you, Madam Moderator and Honorable Minister, RPS Davies, the viewing and listening audience, and to you, the media, a pleasant good morning. This morning, I have the privilege to outline the transitional grant process for the next 3 months, covering July to September. I will further provide information on other support services available to needy households through the Social Development Department. Beneficiaries of grants from the House of Assembly will receive their last assistance grant during this coming week, and it is envisaged that an explanatory letter from the Clerk of the House of Assembly outlining the process moving forward will be provided to each beneficiary. Therefore, as of June 30th, the transfer of assistance grants from HOA to social development will be officially concluded. As of July 1, 2022, social development will hold sole responsibilities for the issuance of assistance grants to the 362 persons transitioning over from the House of Assembly for a 3-month period. And these grants will be issued at the same rate previously granted from the HOA. The primary purpose of continuing the assistance grants in its current form is to avoid any financial hardship or disenfranchisement to current individuals and families. Moreover, during the 3-month period, beneficiaries will be further digitally registered and assessed to determine final eligibility to participate in the public assistance program. Registration is scheduled to begin the 3rd week of July, and to assist in the registration and assessment process, A total of 24 staff members from across the department will conduct the registrations and assessments. Following the assessments, eligible individuals and families will, from October 2022, become enrolled as a public assistance beneficiary and receive rates stipulated under the 2013 Public Assistance Statute. We are mindful that after the initial 3 months transitional period, persons from among the 362 persons may not want to participate in the process for public assistance. Please understand that we know that you have a right to decide, and whatever your decision, we will hold it with utmost respect. Persons can expect during the implementation process to collect checks will be available for collection during the last week of each month during that 3-month period from the following locations: on Tortola at the Treasury Department located in Fish Bay, Skelton Bay Lot, Building 12, on the Sister Islands, Anegada, Virgin Gorda, and Justron at district offices. Persons who are not able to collect their checks can assign someone else in writing to receive checks on their behalf. In special circumstances, the department can also arrange to have checks collected and delivered. The following exclusionary grants will not be considered during this transition period nor under the Public Assistance Program: educational grants, awards, and prizes, grants for athletic, recreational, and entertainment purposes, grants to support businesses and religious organizations, grants to fishers, farmers, and other food producers, and infrastructural projects. Please note that every effort will be made to refer persons to the appropriate avenues for services or requests not administered during this transitional period or under the Public Assistance Program. Public assistance is a needs-based program designed to provide financial support and services to households and individuals in need to enable them to achieve at least a minimum degree of economic security. Our categories under public assistance are as follows: food and household supplies, utilities and rent, child care assistance, funeral and burial assistance, monthly financial assistance, medical assistance, transportation, emergency and clothing assistance. I thank you.
Well, we want to thank you both for your statements and technical information regarding the transition of government grants. Now I'll open the floor to any questions from the members of the media. I will allow 2 questions each. Please indicate if you would like to speak and introduce yourself and the media house that you represent.
Good morning, Kathy Richards, JTV News. This is for either of the 2 members and ahead. For those persons now listed, now blacklisted, the farmers and fisher folks and all of that, were they a regular feature of beneficiaries from the grant program?
I don't know if blacklisting is the right word, Kathy. But
The word that came to mind.
that's a nasty word in our jurisdiction. But what I would say, Kathy, is that all those persons, what we've done is that we've allowed for grants, particularly for educational grants, to go with the Ministry of Education. Grants particularly to businesses will be done with the Trade Commission, and grants will go to respective areas where they are designated. So no one is blacklisted. Person will get the requisite assistance that they need. We've also discussed how we can make sure that they're adequately funded in the budgetary process that's coming up shortly.
Okay, what about emergency cases? We haven't heard you address those. emergency that may come up for persons who are not on your register?
We have, I did mention it in my statement, I think we from time to time have done emergency cases of issuance of grants, particularly after the hurricanes. We did emergency grants for persons who are vulnerable. We had some support from the Red Cross and an organization from the United Kingdom, I think it was DFID, gave us some financial support, and we were able to administer emergency grants. It's no different in this case, Kathy. We will still assess them by a case-by-case basis, and then the department apply as needed.
Okay. How about the human resourcing of the department now that it has taken on this great role that was previously under the House of Assembly?
That is something that we discussed in Cabinet, and part of the Cabinet paper was to give additional support to the department to facilitate the processing of increased grants. So they have the support, they will have the support to have persons processing these grants in a timely manner.
Good morning. Sorry. Fitzroy Randall from BVI News. My first question is, Minister, you mentioned if your investigation find that the checks are being deposited through fraudulent means and so forth, an investigation would commence and you would take requisite steps to get back those funds. When you say we take those legal means to recover those funds, to whom? Is it to the person receiving the check or to persons within the ministry or within the HOA that deals with the distribution of these funds?
I can't prejudice an investigation. I think that will be based on the assessment that will be done by the Social Development Department. The Social Development Department goes through a rigorous process when they're assessing persons who are receiving assistance grants. We intend that the list that comes over are persons who have legitimate needs, but checks might reveal that some persons might not be truthful and forthcoming with information that they brought forward. So the Social Development Department has the responsibility to ensure that we're doing things above board, because at the end of the day, this is public funds, and we have to account for public funds.
Okay, and my next question is to Mrs. Malone Fred. How do you guys plan to mitigate against any discrepancy in payments, such as the people who is not eligible with the new plan going forward?
Okay, so basically what we've outlined this morning is the transitional period, which is July to September. During that period, persons who require assistance are still encouraged to come to the department and apply normally. But this group of persons who are coming over, we're treating them in a special way until we can finalize our assessments.
If I may just add, Cabinet was very clear that we should not disenfranchise anyone during this transitional period. So they've given the requisite support financially and technical supports to ensure that persons who are legitimately in need of assistance gets the opportunity to get assistance. So we make sure that the facilities and the resources are in place to facilitate that for all vulnerable persons within our society.
Good morning, Claire Shevchik, BVI Beacon. The COI report called for a wholesale review of the assistance grants program to be started by June 30th, which is obviously coming up soon.
Yeah.
Is that on track to be started by that date? And do you know who is heading it up?
We are on track, as we are on track with this as well. This is also due on the 30th of June. We were able to pass the process and policy through Cabinet. We've had discussions in terms of personnel that we would use. We're doing an RFP right now to finalize what we require of that individual to perform in terms of this entire wholesale review. The expectation is for that to be passed in Cabinet this Wednesday, and then we would then select the personnel that would conduct that review. We've had support and gracious support from UNICEF in the initial process. We expect to have support from them moving forward. And we've also received interest from United Kingdom organizations who are willing to assist us in the review of this process.
Thanks. My second question is for you, Minister, specifically. So 13 years ago in 2009, the Internal Audit Unit completed an audit that criticized the assistance grants programs, finding that elected representatives were given effectively unfettered discretion when awarding the grants and for questionable purposes. But this year, the COI effectively reiterated these same findings. noting that the auditor's recommendations from more than 10 years ago weren't followed, and they made similar recommendations.
Yeah.
Do you and other members of government agree with the internal auditors and the COI's findings about these programs? And obviously, you in 2009, I believe you were in government at that point. So why did you reform the programs long ago, especially following the 2009 IAD report?
Well, first of all, I wasn't in government in 2009. I got elected in 2011. And since I've been here, we've had several reviews of the entire process. We've updated what we require from applicants. We've also changed the forms in terms of more additional information so that there could be a better verification process. We have made a commitment to ensure that the system was improved. We are now in a process now where we're transitioning from the House of Assembly in terms of the grants process into a new system where we expect to see greater transparency, accountability for public funds, but to ensure first and foremost that there's a clear process for persons who are seeking assistance to get assistance, so that it's not beholden to any one or two individuals, but a process that is clearly outlined and has the accountability checks built into it.
All right. Seems like there are no other questions. So
They are.
Okay, Kathy, go ahead. We have time, so you can get another question each if you desire.
Thank you so much. This one is a more general one to the BVI Health Services Authority. We've been hearing for quite some time this cash-strapped state of BVI Health Services Authority. We've been hearing about broken systems. We've been hearing about the shortage of staff, compromised areas. You are just under 2 months, I think, in the position now, again, as Minister for Health. Could you give us a little background or overview as to what reforms are taking place right now so as to get the system up into the most comfortable position?
Thank you for being so kind, Kathy, for noting I'm only here for 2 months. but to be honest, Kathy, I am not one that makes excuses. I believe that if there's a problem, we need to fix the problem. And the PSNI and the team has jumped right into it and said, look, let's assess where we are in terms of the Health Service Authority. Let's assess what needs to be addressed in terms of the relationship between HSA, particularly NHI, and how we're going to fix that broken relationship with both entities. We've developed an RFP to look at the physical plant at the hospital and the deficiencies and what needs to be addressed in terms of the physical plant, as well as the overall running of the institution. We're looking at how we can address those deficiencies and improve the efficiency of the organization. So we jump right into it. We're doing the assessments that are necessary with a clear vision in a way forward for addressing those issues. One of the things that I've done after becoming minister is to cut back on this issue of the staff not being paid. There was an issue in terms of the subvention. I got confirmation from the Minister of Finance and the acting financial secretary that the subvention is up to date as of Friday, and I want to make sure that is clear, that we got that confirmation, so that they ensure that the fund at least gets the board, that's the authority, at least gets the funds that's required for it to run its operation, and then we look at where the deficiencies are and then we improve those deficiencies.
On the area of maintenance, very often we are hearing persons have to be referred to other health facilities, not because the hospital doesn't have the facility, but it's not in a working state. How are we dealing with that situation if in fact it exists?
We've made some immediate steps to get the infrastructure up and running, the key critical infrastructure up and running, but like I said, we're doing a comprehensive review of that entire physical plant, and then we'll have a better grasp on what are the issues and how do we move forward from there.
Okay, and finally from me, I can recall we had 2 senior officers who were sent on leave. How is that going? Is the process, the investigation or assessment, is that completed, and what's the position at the moment?
The process is still ongoing, Kathy, and I wish not to comment on that right now until we get a final report in terms of where we are with that process.
Thank you.
Good morning once more.
Okay.
My question is to the Minister, and it is in regard to the nurse Iris O'Neill clinic. a medical center on
Yes.
Virgin Gorda.
Of course.
During your time in the opposition, you would have made mention of it not being outfitted with the proper equipment to carry out its function to the people on Fiji. Where exactly is that currently, and how is it going with outfitting the clinic to support those under our sister island?
I mean, my position in opposition, my position now is still the same. I believe that at least the sister islands need to get at least the basics that they need to perform and that's it for that institution to function. Part of our assessment includes the North Iris O'Neill Clinic in terms of that comprehensive assessment of the physical plant of both facilities so that we can make sure that at least the people in Virgin Gorda and on the sister islands gets the level of care that they deserve from the system.
Is there like a time frame?
I don't want to say a time frame now and you hold me to that. Once the RFP goes out, we get a response, then I'll be able to communicate again in terms of a time frame.
Do you anticipate more people will be able to get assistance once the grant system is reformed?
We expect more people to get assistance. That's why we've ramped up the staffing. We've ramped up in terms of the financial monies that we need to provide assistance. I know my colleagues and I know that when I fight for the people. I fight hard. So in cabinet, I made sure that the monies that we asked for were there and provided for persons so they could get the assistance. What we have to do now is that in the new budgetary cycle to make sure, based on the assessment that we do, based on the requests that we get, to make sure that we have a robust system that can meet as much as we can the needs of the vulnerable persons within our population going forward.
All right, thank you for all those questions from the members of the media. This brings our press conference to an end. I want to thank our Minister for Health and Social Development, Honorable Marlon Penn, and our Chief Social Development Officer, Mrs. Annie Malone-Fred, for all the information shared today. I would also like to thank the members of our media, our listening and viewing audience today for logging on. And remember, for the latest government information, visit our website at bvi.gov.fg. Like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at BVI Government and on Instagram at GISBVI. I've been your moderator today, Natasha Letsam Humphrey, Public Health Communications Specialist. Thank you for joining and enjoy the remainder of your day.